What's up, everybody? This is Neil Real, and this is Let's Please God, the ministry that helps you stay right with God and find victory over sin and the devil and all his devices. Today, we're talking about how to be masculine, the 7 parts of masculinity. This is something I came up with. This is not an exhaustive list or anything. It's just me and my studies on masculinity. And unfortunately, we have to do these studies because we live in a society that doesn't want us to be masculine. And a lot of our behaviors are a result of suppressed masculinity. So today I'm just going to be sharing some things that I've been learning about being a man. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is that Satan and the powers that be want men to be less masculine, or they want to remove most of their masculinity because it's harder to control and dominate them when they're masculine. So this is the reason why we live in a gynocentric society where everything is catered towards women. They want men to be feminine because now the men can't stand up and do anything. Many of the attributes on this list that I'm gonna give you have been programmed out of men raised in a gynocentric society. So you're operating in a way that just it's not normal, but you don't know it because all you know is your programming. Men raised in a gynocentric society are like animals that were born in a zoo. Like you're a tiger or a lion, you don't know nothing about hunting and fighting. You just know that you get fed by the zookeeper. You may not be that aggressive. Or it's likened to being born in slavery in America. So a lot of the Hebrews who were stolen from Africa and raised over here to be slaves, they had children, and those children were born into slavery. All they know was servitude. So that's how most men are today in this country. And it's programming. It's not that you want to be that way. It's just the way the country and the society was set up. All right. You need to understand that your masculinity was suppressed, but it's not destroyed. See, all they can do is suppress it because this is the foundation of who you are as a man. It's there already. It's just that it's being suppressed. Once again, like I said, this isn't an exhaustive list. I'm still regaining the knowledge of being a man or masculinity. I'm still looking inside myself. So I found that if you get away from civilization, you can reset yourself. So cut off television, cut off media, get off of YouTube. Just try to take some time away from society, specifically gynocentric society, to regain your masculinity. It'll automatically come back. Or you can go to a society that's more patriarchal, we're male dominated, and you can observe that as well. So that's what I suggest. I had to talk about this because I keep talking about how women don't like men because they're not masculine. Why your wife cheating on you? What? Because you're probably not masculine. Why you don't have sex with women? Why you don't have? Because you're not masculine. I say all this stuff because it's so we got to talk about it. Like, what is masculinity? So I came up with 7 different attributes here, and I'm gonna talk about each now. The first one is you have self-respect. Strong masculinity. One of the attributes is you have self-respect. You value yourself and you respect yourself. You stand up for yourself and you protect yourself. You don't let nobody talk to you any old kind of way. You don't let nobody disrespect you. You are your own mental point of origin. You don't like just sitting, what do other people think and what do my wife think? You don't follow them, you follow yourself. Because you value yourself. You have a sense of I have value, I have intelligence, I can think for myself. I'm not gonna just follow whatever everybody else is telling me. I'm gonna think for myself, okay? But the main thing I want to say is just self-respect is the first thing. You can't let people mistreat you. And unfortunately, we live in a society where men are taught they're not that valuable. They're just pretty much utilities. Something to be used by a woman, something to be used by a company, and you make yourself useful, and you let yourself be mistreated in all these different ways. And it's because you weren't taught self-respect. And this goes all the way back to your parenting. Parents should teach their children to be respectful of themselves, that they're valuable. But men today are taught that they're not that valuable. You're only worth what you can give to a woman. You're just worth whatever the company says you are. You got to understand that you have value outside of companies and women and people, Know your value. That's the first thing, all right? Number two here is you must have a strong will. Okay, part of being a masculine man, a very masculine man, is you force your will on the environment. All right, if you want to do something, you make sure it happens. You find a way to make it happen. You don't just go with the flow of the environment. If somebody is going in a different direction than you're not going to just follow along. You're going to end up butting heads, and you're going to have to, split company. You're not going to just follow along with somebody else's will. And that's the main reason why they don't want men to have strong wills, because they're not going to submit to the foolishness that the society is putting on people. But we see today, look right now, currently with this so-called virus and things like that, and the Black Lives Matter movement, when people run around burning stuff up, and people that's paid to protest, all of this stuff here is people going with the flow. Okay, people getting emotional and doing whatever they told. So that's not a strong will. That's not masculine behavior. Another part of being having a strong will is that you are a builder. You're creative. That means you have a purpose and you have plans, and you start building those things, and you're making sure that they come to fruition. Let's think about the car, for instance. A man had a strong will to build a car. His will was, I want to be able to travel faster than walking or running or being on a horse. I want to go faster than that. So he began to devise a way to create something that would transport him faster. He forced his will on the environment. He put together resources, and he made a car or a plane or a jet. That is what a strong will is. He didn't give up. So when you have a strong will, you never take no for an answer. You are determined. And that means that sometimes it requires that you have physical strength, that you get more education, that you have financial resources, and that you have some status, because sometimes you need to rally up other people to help you get your job done. So that means you got to develop status or charisma. Okay, all of this is connected to having a strong will, because you're trying to create something, you're trying to set something in motion. But I see men thinking that if they just got muscles, if they got education, if they got money, and they got status, that's what makes them a man. Those things are helpful. They're tools, but they're not the end all be all. You didn't reach masculinity status because you got muscles and you got education, you got some money. What are you going to do with that stuff? You can be muscular and strong looking, but what are you going to do with it? That's the point, all right? You can be a man that is charismatic and people like you and they listen to you, but for what reason? Why are you getting status for? It's for the purposes of rallying people together for a cause. So the third thing here is being dominant. If you are a masculine man, you are dominant. It starts with creating your own domain, or having your own domain, meaning you have your own space. You are sovereign. You own your own space. Okay, you have some level of dominion over your own space. Nobody can tell you, where to live, and this is kind of a tricky thing to say, but you should have your own place. You should have your own space, something that you control, that you have dominion over. A lot of people are renting. A lot of people don't own their own space. At any point, the landlord can come into their home and their space. That's not full dominion. So a masculine man seeks to have full control over his dominion, his domain. All right. He seeks to have full control. I don't want nobody coming in my space. I don't want nobody taking my where I sleep at away from me. I don't want none of that. And I'm not going to allow somebody else to control that. All right. When you're a dominant man, you don't back down from people who are trying to dominate you. Because along with dominance, men are going to try to dominate other men. They're just going to try to do it. And unfortunately, like I said, gynocentric culture teaches men not to be dominant. Don't dominate. Domination is some kind of a sinful thing. It's arrogant. Or it's domineering. So there's a difference between being a dominant man and being domineering. Okay, domineering is more of a negative thing, because you seek to dominate everything. You don't have any kind of you don't have any discipline. You don't have any kind of a rule set for who and what you're dominating. You just try to dominate everything. You try to dominate the conversation. That's being domineering. Okay, It's totally unnecessary, and it shows that you're probably insecure, and you can't let others be free to be themselves. You gotta keep dominating. That's domineering. Okay, that's not the same as being dominant. Okay, it's about controlling and running your own space and stuff like that. But as a dominant man, you refuse to be dominated by others, at least fully. Okay, we all got to submit to laws. We got to submit to law enforcement in some cases, and you have to act accordingly. But generally, you want to be a person that's like trying to be as free as possible, and then you own and control your own space. So that leads us into what we was talking about before about men dominating females. Women were created to aid and help men, so men ought to dominate their women. At least you're a woman. You don't let women dominate you, okay? Because you are a masculine man. All right. And the byproduct of that is women who know that a man is extremely dominant, they tend to submit to that man versus a man who's trying to deal with them on an equal plane or is trying to make them their world and focusing on them and worshiping them. They don't find those men attractive because they understand that something's missing with him. He's not dominant how he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be dominant, especially over a woman. All right. Number 4 here is when you are a masculine man, you are orderly. Okay. You have order. You set order. You set rules and standards. You don't have everything running out of chaos. Everything has an order. It has a place where it's supposed to be and a system that's governing that and running that. Okay. You measure your growth and your progress. You're always making sure everything is working and things are changing. You don't practice insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and to expect different results. When somebody's doing it, they're disorderly. They don't have order in their life. They're chaotic. Along with being orderly is that you hold yourself and others accountable. So anytime somebody breaks your rules, you got something for them. So when I talked about, a man dominating his wife and being dominant in a relationship, there must be rules, and there must be you should hold a woman accountable for her stuff. And unfortunately, in the gynocentric society, there's no accountability for women. They get to do things, nothing comes of it. They don't feel like they should be held accountable. All of this stuff is the result of women in charge, men not being masculine, and this is what we got today. So finally, a part of orderly is also having punishments and rewards. Okay, so you're having punishment for those who break the rules that you set up, and you got rewards for those who support your rules and follow them. Okay, and just to talk about dominance again, I don't think men ought to dominate other men particularly. I think they should lead other men and let men be men. Don't put a man in a place or a position where he is dominated like a woman. It's perverted to do that to another man, but men do it all the time. They actually think to themselves, I'm better than other men because I'm dominating other men. If I can, it's easy to get a woman to dominate, but if I can dominate a man, I'm even better. And they get a kick off of that. But that's a lack of respect for other men to do that to another man. So that's what being orderly is, another part of being masculine. All right, number 5 here is aggression and assertiveness. You must range between assertiveness and aggression. You're never really passive. You're never just going to let something go by. You're not going to do that. You are assertive about what you want, and you can get aggressive about what you want. And that translates to your will. What are you trying to build? What are you trying to do? And then people who will come against what you're trying to do and build. You have to be you got to have that killer instinct. You got to be willing to kill somebody. If somebody was to come against your family or you, because you have self-respect, what are you going to do? You should be willing to kill them if necessary. So having a killer instinct, you got to be willing to kill somebody, man. And the reason why, because you're dealing with the wicked. There are wicked people out here. There's evils out here. If it ain't men, it's, maybe you live in a wilderness and there's animals that may be that may harm you if you get too close to them, or if they may be trying to get something from you. You got to be a person that is willing, that is assertive and aggressive. All right, that's part of being a man. This is part of being masculine. And unfortunately, once again, they try to beat the aggression out of boys growing up. You know, I was told I couldn't watch wrestling or any kind of violent TV movies and shows like that because that would instill aggression in me. Well, aggression is important. Let your boys wrestle growing up. Let them watch violent movies. Get them used to seeing violence because they're going to have to be violent with the wicked, with wild animals. You got to be in order to win. If you, like I said, it's back to forcing your will and having a strong will. You got to be able to do those things in order to deal with life. And so to coddle children, tell them they can't be aggressive and cutting out any kind of righteous anger that may rise up in a boy is foul, it's perverted, and I hate that. But it's done on a regular basis to boys and men in this country. So you got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive. And people have to know you can come from assertiveness to aggression in a minute. That it's okay to be angry. That's about being a man, especially something that's injustice. You know, this is part of being a man. You got to be able to punish injustice too. You're ready to punish some injustice. If somebody come against you, I'm about to get you. You know, I got something for you. You know, this is where self-defense comes in. This is where defending those you care about comes into. That's part of being a man, being aggressive. All right. But they tell you every day you can't be aggressive. Get that bass out of your voice. Don't you talk to me like that. Be soft. Be nice. The biggest problem with men today, a lot of them, they nice guys. Be nice. Be nice. No, I'm not going to be nice. I can't be nice in a wicked world. The reason why they want you to be nice is that ends up making you passive, and then that ends up leading you to be taken advantage of by the wicked. The wicked are not nice. The wicked are aggressive. They have a strong will. They're going to take what they want and get what they want. And you have to be able to stop them because they're going to try to take your stuff. All right? So you got to be a fighter. You got to be a warrior. Okay? But don't let nobody tell you you're wrong for being angry about injustice or getting angry about them mistreating you. I had it happen to me on so many levels. Growing up, the religion I was a part of told us we couldn't, wrestle. We couldn't look at violence and movies and different things like that. They tried to remove all the aggression. It came from some kind of talk about young boys, if they're exposed to that, they'll be aggressive, and you don't want that. And then I remember when I became a Christian, I had this narcissist telling me I couldn't respond to his bad behavior, and that I was wrong for being angry, and trying to get me, and pretty much gaslighting me, as we talked about some of the tactics that narcissists use, to try to tell you somehow you're wrong. You're not a good Christian if you're angry, if you respond to people's mistreatments and their control and their attempts to dominate you with any kind of aggression. That's how you're supposed to respond. Don't let nobody mistreat you and dominate you and put you down. You see, but they try to tell you you're wrong for even standing up for yourself and protecting yourself. Don't defend yourself. Let God defend you, right? Well, that applies in certain situations when it's above your head, but as a human being on ground level, you got the right and the responsibility to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Don't let nobody bully you. Like I said, though, we live in a gynocentric society that tell men to back down, submit yourself, humble yourself, as if you're somehow being proud. You're not being proud. It's a shame how they got us out here, So only the people who are more masculine, who hit all these 7 points, they're the ones that's the most successful. The less successful you are as a man is because you got less masculinity. It's been suppressed. All right. So once again, you got to be a fighter, a warrior. You got to seek to punish the injustice. You got to be confrontational. Being confrontational. People who run from confrontation are not masculine. Okay, that's what women do. They don't want to face people. And that's something I realized that I kept doing. I was always confronting people about their bad behavior. But then they would try to change the subject and all this kind of stuff. Another thing that masculine people are, masculine men in particular, they're not passive aggressive. Okay, When I talk about aggressive, I'm not talking about passive aggressive. That's you pretending to be passive, but you're really upset and angry, but you don't want to express it outwardly. So you covertly do things to get back at the person and all this. No. Real men who are masculine directly confront people about their foolishness and their mess. They don't operate behind the scenes. They don't go talking about somebody behind their back. They go directly to the person they got an issue with. You know, and I remember dealing with a lot of men in church like that. And I couldn't deal with them. I couldn't be friends with them because they were passive aggressive. They were female like, you know. But this is a trait that they baked into men because of this gynocentric society. And so real men who have masculinity are not passive aggressive. They are assertive and they are aggressive. They're fighters. They have righteous anger. They express it. They defend those whom they care. They practice self-defense. Why? Because they self-value. All right. Going on to number 6 here. Masculinity is having self-control. You put reasons over emotion. You think about stuff. You put logic over emotion. You don't let your emotions dictate, you know, how you're going to live. Okay. Currently, right now, we see a lot of rioting and bad behavior by the youth. And we see a lot of men and women out there. Those men ought not be out there. That's something females do. They get riled up in their emotions and do stupid stuff. Men aren't acting like that. Why? They've been raised by women. They've been raised by women. And they don't know how to be masculine. Their masculinity has been suppressed. So part of being a masculine man is having self-control. You control your emotions. You put logic over emotion. You have critical thinking skills. That's what comes out of that. When you're faced with a problem, you start to critically attack it rather than emotionally dealing with it. You start to have critical thinking skills. And when you have critical thinking skills, you can see through people's BS. You can see through people's manipulation. This is why, as the more masculine you become, the more you can watch television and news and see that they're lying to you. You can critically think. You don't get caught up in the emotion that they're projecting out at you. They want you to feel some kind of way about a virus. They want you to feel some way about a man's death. And you get all emotional about it. But that's not how you ought to respond to it. Okay? You sit down and you start to critically think about things rather than respond to them in a way that it will lead you to do something that's not helpful to you. So self-control leads to you problem solving instead of just complaining about a problem. When you are protesting about racism, you're not solving the problem, you're complaining about it. Now you can put people on blast and say, hey, y'all did this, but then you need to seek solutions rather than just complaining about it. Another part of self-control is venturing into uncomfortable zones. You are not going to just sit somewhere and let your emotions and how you feel and your body just control you. You're willing to go to places where you're not going to be comfortable. You're going to go out of your comfort zone. Why? Because you need to grow, you need to do things, and that means that you got to be brave, you got to be bold, you got to go places you haven't been before. You know, in order to get things done. You're forcing your will once again. You're forcing your will on the environment. That means you got to go into places that you haven't been before. You got to venture outside your comfort zone. When you don't control your emotions and control yourself as a person, your body's naturally going to say, I don't want to go somewhere that I'm not comfortable. I just want to stay comfortable. You see? That's a lack of masculinity when you do that. Number 7 here is finally, the 7th trait of masculinity is agape love. And we've talked about this many times in this series, but many of us have these attributes. Even if you're not born again, you'll have some of these attributes, but they won't be defined and they won't be prominent. Because we're all made in the image of God, so we got elements of him, but we need to strengthen them and be mature in these areas in our lives. And so we're made in the image of God. And so these are some of the attributes of God. Kindness, humility, and respect. As a masculine man, if you're fully masculine, you respect other men. Okay? You respect nature, you respect life, human life, above all else. When a man don't respect other men, there's something wrong with him. He's not masculine. Okay? Because he's hating on and mistreating something that's made in the image of God. Okay? All right? Another thing is he takes responsibility for his faults. So if he makes a mistake, he's gonna apologize and try to make it right. He's not gonna act like he didn't do nothing wrong. Right? Another attribute of love here, agape love, is he loves the truth. He doesn't go around lying and being deceptive and practicing iniquity. Right? Love is patient. We talked about that. Love doesn't gossip. A man who's a fully masculine man, he don't go around talking about other people behind their back, spreading rumors and lies. Okay? He don't gossip. If a man tells him something in confidence, he keeps that to himself. One of the attributes is it's clearly said that love covers, which means it doesn't gossip. It covers the sin, or it covers whatever the man said and said, hey, this is what was happening to me. This is what I did. It covers that. He don't go around telling everybody else. All right. Love, once again here, does not envy. When you have a man that's very envious of other men, he's lacking in masculinity. All right. These type of guys will sabotage another man, hate on that man, talk about him, try to tear down his reputation because they don't want to do the work themselves to be better in whatever area of life that other man is winning in. Okay, that's the root of envy. People, they see you doing good, they see you making money, they see you looking better, they see you getting women, and they're offended by that, and they want to seek to tear you down. That's envy. Okay, because they don't want to do what's necessary to get what they need to get in life. Okay, so love doesn't envy. All right, it doesn't keep a record of wrongs. It's not selfish. That's another thing. Even though a man will put himself as his mental point of origin, he is not self-centered, meaning he thinks about his actions, how they're going to affect other people. He doesn't destroy the environment if he's trying to create his new world in some area of the earth. He don't destroy the rest of the plants and the animals or take up or steal other people's space that's already there. The people who invaded America, they're not masculine in certain areas of their life because they didn't have the values necessary to respect the land, the nature, and the people who already lived here. All right. Another attribute of agape love is forgiving. All right. So if a man confesses sins or repent, forgive him. All right. It doesn't mean that you let him back into your space, but you let go of what he owes you. All right. We talked about forgiveness in the past. Endurance. He doesn't give up. We talked about that with your self-will being determined, but endurance is continuing to keep going, hoping for the best. You're positive minded. You're not negative minded. All right. You're slow to wrath. You don't let anybody just get you pissed off and you get to doing, jumping off and getting emotional. That goes back to that self-control thing. Okay. You're trustworthy. You keep your word. A real man keep his word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you can't do it, tell him ahead of time, hey man, I said I was going to do that, but you know what? Things have changed. I don't have the resources now. Tell him in advance. Try to make some kind of restitution for breaking your word, because you couldn't keep it. But for the most part, as a man of God, you keep your word. This is all a part of being a godly man, and also a part of masculinity. Okay, this is not a Christian thing, because you got to understand that we were all made in the image of God, and the man who's operating like God is going to have the attributes of God. All right. Another attribute, and the last attribute of love here, is that you are a healer and a restorer. You don't just discard broken things or people. Some people just give up on people and they just dump them, like, forget it, I'm done. I don't want to deal with you. I'm not going to fix this. I'm not going to fix that. If people want to be fixed, they want to be healed, masculine men will take the time out to try to heal and restore that person. Now, there are people you have to discard in your life. There are people who don't want to change. And there are people you do have to get rid of. But healing and restoring is also part of the love of God, because that's how God is. And a man must be the same way in certain areas of his life. All right. So that's all I got for you today. That is what masculinity is about. There's 7 different traits here. And it's probably more. I mean, we could add to it, but this is what I've been going on for. This is what I found. And so let me just review here. Number 1, self-respect, self-value. You got to have that. Number 2, have a strong will. You got to be determined to build whatever you got to build. You got to know your purpose. Focus on building that, and force the environment to bend to whatever you're trying to create. All right. Number 3 here is be dominant. You gotta have your control of your own domain, your own space. You gotta be a sovereign man. No backing down from people who are trying to dominate you. You must dominate the women in your life, and women will find you more desirable because you are a dominant man. Okay, you don't let them dominate you. Number 4 here is you are orderly. You set up order. You don't live in a chaotic system. At least your domain is not chaotic. It's peaceful. It has rules. It's flowing. There's standards. There's systems in place. You make sure those systems are optimized. You don't repeat yourself in what you're building. You measure your growth and your progress because you're always looking in to see how well it's doing. And if you can tweak something or change something, you hold yourself accountable and others accountable when they get out of pocket and disorderly, and you have punishments and rewards. Number 5 here is you got to be aggressive and assertive. Be willing to fight and kill people if necessary to protect yourself. You got to be that way. Number 6 here is self-control. We talked about that, which leads to reason over emotion, critical thinking, problem solving, and venturing into zones that are not comfortable. Number 7 is the final here is to have agape love. All right, we went over that list already. So that's all I got for you today. Hope that helps somebody. This information will be in the show notes or in the sermon notes. Till next time, walk in the Spirit and be blessed.